Hi everyone, I'm Laura Gale Locke. On this edition of Local Loop, we're going to give you an update on the Priority Project, which has been a collaborative effort to help outline the goals for our community. We're very pleased to have Sommer Keplar here with us today. She is the co-chair of Visioneering Wichita. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first just tell me how the Priority Project got started.
The Priority Project started through a culmination of a few different events happening kind of simultaneously. One of the things that happened is Visioneering annually takes a city-to-city trip. This year was our 7th year. Last year, the city-to-city trip was to Pittsburgh, and a common theme arose from each of the city-to-city trips in the past that communities who were moving their community forward at an expedited pace had one common focus that they really surrounded themselves around for a short time frame to get that one thing done. And then they moved on to the following activity. So that was one thing that the Visioneers came back from the city to city and said, how can we find what that one thing is that we can do in our community in a short time frame? Simultaneous with that, Visioneering received a letter from Mayor Brewer and at that time, Chairman of the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners, Dave Unruh. And it was challenging Visioneering to come up with 3 priorities for the next 3 years for our region. So Visioneering, using that letter that we received and the feedback from both the Visioneering Steering Council and those who had gone on the city-to-city trip, decided to come up with this process for the Priority Project, at the same time receiving funding from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation as well to help kickstart this Priority Project.
So you get all your funding in place, and then what happens?
From that point forward, we first engaged our alliances through Visioneering as well as our vision partners. We went to them and asked them 3 questions. The questions were, what have you been doing? What do you plan to do? Who have you been partnering with? And then what is that one thing, that one priority for you for our community going forward? So we reached many organizations through that, and from there narrowed down that feedback, ultimately to come up with the 8 top priorities that we took out to the community under the 3 categories of things to do, places to work, and people. At that point, we turned it over to Young Professionals of Wichita, one of our partners in this project, and they, over a couple of months, took it out to the community in a variety of ways, electronically and hitting feet on the streets to get feedback from the community.
I heard they were very busy. Before we talk more about that, though, why don't you outline the 8 different topics that came up?
Okay, the 8 different priorities are under places to work. There's diversify our local economy by keeping industries already here and recruiting new jobs in new industries, as well as the second one of market our region so other companies and people know what we have to offer and want to come. Under the category of people, we have 3 priorities. The first is offer internships for young people, increase the number of people in the region who advance their post-high school education, either through degrees, certificates, or retraining opportunities. And the third one is have a reliable transportation or transit system to get people where they need to go. Under the third category of things to do, we again have 3 different priorities the community had to choose from. First is create a regional network of bike and walk paths, develop Arkansas River recreation, and develop more downtown activities and events in Wichita for individuals and families of all ages.
Sounds like great goals.
Yes, absolutely.
So then Young Professionals of Wichita took these different goals and priorities, or suggested priorities maybe I should say, out and got more feedback. Is that how it worked?
Yeah, what the Young Professionals did is they took these 8 priorities as well as some demographic information because we wanted to make sure that we had representation from a variety of groups within our community. And they took these 8 out through, one method was electronic survey. And that's where we got the bulk of our responses from. We were able to use emails for Wichita Downtown Development Corporation, Young Professionals, Visioneering, and other networks that we have. Through all our various social media outlets, we were able to reach over 20,000 people through companies and higher ed institutions. We also went out, did the feet on the street at Riverfest, at some Final Friday events, and some YPW and some chamber activities as well. And then the additional way that we reached out to people was using local churches and community organizations, neighborhood city halls, to get some feedback from others who might not have access to a computer or who might choose to take the survey in a different way than electronically.
So everybody really worked hard to reach like a wide variety of people.
Absolutely, that was our goal, and we did achieve results from 9 counties across the region, a bulk of them coming from Sedgwick County, and it mirrored our population that we have. So that was one of our goals, and that goal was certainly attained.
And then someone went through the hard work of going and sorting through all that feedback.
Absolutely, took all of that feedback, the Young Professionals of Wichita group did, and summarized it down. Within each of the 3 categories, the public was asked to select one to get us to our top 3 priorities. So we were able to get to those top 3 priorities pretty simply. Additionally, beyond the 8 priorities listed, people had an option to select other and type in open-ended feedback about what they thought the priorities should be. And so there was a lot of work put into also summarizing that open feedback from the community, but it was a great way to see that ultimately the message through that was still, we need jobs in our community.
And so with the top 3 priorities that came out of this, was it overwhelmingly, swayed towards people really focused on these 3, or was it kind of divided, or how did that play out?
It was divided between them, but the 3 priorities that stood out were absolutely the top 3 that stood out among them. The others are still priorities for us as a community. There's still things that we're going to focus on in different ways. But the top 3 resoundingly were what the community said, we want to focus on these 3 items as a community in the next 3 years to help us have great impact in a short amount of time.
And I suppose maybe we should remind people of those top 3 priorities.
Yes, the top 3 that came out are diversify our local economy by keeping industries already here and recruiting new jobs in new industries. The second one is increase the number of people in the region who advance their post-high school education, either through degrees, certificates, or retraining opportunities. And the third is develop more downtown Wichita activities and events for individuals and families of all ages.
Let's go through and talk about each one a little bit and how you'll start working on each of those.
Great. Within each of these 3, a key piece of this is that we recognize as Visioneering that there's a lot of partners that we have to work with in these. So for Visioneering as an organization, we're the organization helping to align and mobilize others. That align and mobilize is really our mantra for what our role is. And it's to help hold us all accountable as a region to make sure that these 3 priorities are being done, are being focused on. So there's a lot of partners coming into play into each one of those. So when we announced the 3 priorities, we then began the process, and we're in that process now, of identifying who are the partners specifically within these 3 activities that are happening. Diversify our local economy, we know as Visioneering alone we can't do it, but there's many organizations in the community already focusing on that. So how do we align those organizations together to ensure that they're working towards a common purpose? Under increasing the number of people who advance their post-high school education, there's some great work being done in our College Mecca Alliance, for example, within Visioneering. They have this Achieve Kansas project that they've been working on to help increase the number of people who get those advanced degrees, those post-high school education degrees. Under Develop More Downtown Wichita Activities, again, there's great momentum behind that. We have Final Friday, we have First Friday, we have Wichita Downtown Development Corporation bringing us many events, Delano bringing many events. So it's how do we bring those groups together to have more of that collaboration happening and have that great impact in that short amount of time.
So if somebody's watching this show and they want to learn more or maybe get involved, can they still do so?
Absolutely. Visioneering is a community process. It's an organization that's run by volunteers. And so we're always looking for people who are willing to partner with us through Visioneering, whether it's formally through a Visioneering Alliance, creating a new alliance, or being another Visioneering partner in a different way. And the best way to do that is to go out to our website of visioneeringwichita.org. You can link to our social media sites out there, find out more about the Priority Project, and find out more about what Visioneering is all about. We know that it's a collaborative effort, so we need those relationships in our community.
And clarify what you mean by forming an alliance. What does that mean?
And the alliances are what have been created around specific topic areas within Visioneering. For example, there's College Mecca Alliance that I referenced earlier. College Mecca is an alliance that's formed from the different leaders of the different higher education institutions in the area. So they came together, and they're now figuring out how can we work together to collaboratively increase the number of people getting degrees in our region, or certificates, or retraining. So very directly ties back to one of our priorities. There's a healthcare alliance that's focused on improving the health of the community. So alliances, again, are groups of members surrounded around a common topic in our region to help progress the region forward.
So you guys are doing a lot of work that maybe the general public isn't aware of, that you're all doing behind the scenes.
Absolutely, and like I said, our website is a great way to find out about that. And one of the things through this priority project that we identified is we need to continue telling our story, not just for Visioneering, but as a community as a whole. Tell a story about what we're doing great as a community and what things are happening here.
So Sommer, why is it so important that we identify these top 3 priorities and go through this whole process?
The importance of this really comes because we know that we're in essentially a war for jobs and for talent. It's a very competitive time right now in our economy. Recently, we had the opportunity to go to Omaha for this year's City to City trip, and it highlighted for us, on the heels of announcing our 3 priorities, why it's so important for us as a community to have a common focus. Omaha, as well as the other communities we visited, they have a central focus that they focus on in a short amount of time, and that allows them to progress as a community. And that's an area where we know we need to go as a community, as Wichita, to have that collaborative effort, to have that we environment where we do this as a community rather than different parts and pieces focusing on it without that coordinated communication. It's that need to align and mobilize to get the greatest impact with the resources that we do have.
Well, I think the process you guys have used has been great because it's been so inclusive and everybody can feel like they're a part of it and outlining our goals and where we want to see our community head.
It really is. That's our goal, is to have it be a community process and have it be the voice of the community, that we're here really just lifting up what that voice of the community is. And that sense of urgency that we have with it to help the community move forward with 3 priorities in 3 years and have those start right now.
Is there anything else that you want to let people know before we leave them?
No, it's an exciting time for our community, and I would encourage people to check out the website, thevisioneeringwichita.org, to learn more about the project, become informed about it, and find their way to get involved in the community, whether it's through Visioneering, through one of our partners, or in a different way, so that we can use all of our resources in the community to help progress.
All right. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching this edition of Local Loop. And don't forget to check out Visioneering Wichita's website.